Okay, so now we come to it. Now we come to this film. You know, I deliberately saved this film for last because, you know, you can say a lot about the films that we've taken a look at this month for This Is Halloween reviews. They've had their ups, they've had their downs, they've gone from entertaining to confusing to completely asinine, and in some cases downright offensive. But I think that there is fun to be had with each of them. These films were entertaining all in their own way. But unfortunately, when we come to this movie, there's just no way around it, folks. This is a stinker. This is just a awful film, almost from start to finish, with very little in the way of saving graces. It is a film that is just sad, just so sad. And when you hear a title like Hillbillies in a Haunted House, you expect just a little something, and it can't even be bothered to deliver on that. Well, no, it does deliver Hillbillies in a Haunted House, but it can't even deliver on the promise of the premise. This one was hard to get through. The others I've watched, and I've watched multiple times, and yeah, they're dumb and they're background filler. This one I've only seen twice, and it is just a knife in the gut to talk about. But talk about it we are going to do, because we need to discuss this film. I think more people need to view this, if for no other reason than to share the pain I have experienced. And in the end, isn't that what Halloween is all about? So join me as we discuss the ebbs and flows of Hillbillies in a Haunted House. Now, the first thing we need to know is, once again, just like we were with the Ghost of Dragstrip Hollow, we are actually in sequel country. Believe it or not. This movie is actually a sequel to a film that came out the previous year called Las Vegas Hillbillies. Apparently, that film was so popular that the studio decided it just had to bring these characters back. You know, that explains why the hillbilly characters have become the pop culture icons that they are today, and why there are conventions where people flock to them dressed as their favorite hillbilly characters. So let's see if we can dissect this. So what is the story of this? So our title Hillbillies, and in this case, this would be Ferlin Husky as Woody, Don Bowman as Jeepers, the quintessential unfunny comic sidekick character, and Lonnie Lansing taking over the role of Boots Malone from Mamie Van Doren from the previous film. We all know it's very difficult for an actor to take over an iconic role from an actor for whom the performance has become synonymous, but I will say Lonnie does a fairly decent job. Anyway, so the titular Hillbillies are on their way to a jamboree in Tennessee, and that rhymes, and that makes me sad. But anyway, they are on their way to a jamboree when they get waylaid by G-men having gunfights with spies. They do not say where these spies are from or whom they represent, just that they are spies. The Hillbillies decide that because Jeepers is so nervous and apparently a nervous wreck, they need to stop and rest for the night. And the only place that they can find is a haunted house. And thus they crash there, unbeknownst to them that this is where the den of thieves, or spies as it should be, have decided to make their headquarters and have perpetuated the myth of the haunted house in order to keep nosy people away. So that the spies can steal some formula from a missile silo in the neighboring town and report it back to their boss, an extremely racist Chinese man. Of course, the Hillbillies find out about this. There's hijinks, there's country songs, Boots is abducted by another gorilla, And, it just goes round and round. It's nowhere near as interesting as the description makes it sound. So, what went wrong with this picture? Well, I think a couple things. First of all, I think there is a definite problem with the energy. Once again, say what you will about Tickle Me, The Ghost of Drag Strip Hollow, and The Ghost in the Invisible Bikini. But one thing you can say about all of them is they were high energy. There was enthusiasm there, even if it was misplaced and confused, but there was enthusiasm. There was an energy to it. This film has none of that. This film has no energy and no pickup. It is just there. It is just sitting on your head. I don't know if that is because A, it is from a no-name studio that had no budget and no time, and therefore, there's no sense of urgency to get anything done or to make it good. I also think the fact that this film's focus is actually on country music as opposed to rock and roll, which the other films we've discussed have been. And while I do like country music, let's be honest, it tends to have a little bit slower tempo, especially in the 60s. This wasn't the raucous drinking beer and, chasing the badonky-donk kind of country music we have today. This was much slower. This was Conway Twitty country music. So it's much slower in tempo. I also think age has something to do with it, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. Even amongst our leading actors, these are not spring chickens. Furline Husky and Don Bowman are not exactly young men. So there is a much slower pace to this one. This one doesn't even have anything to bring in an audience. You've got to ask the question, who is this movie for? Well, the obvious answer is this movie is for country music fans. Because our main actors, Furline Husky and Don Bowman, are country music singers. And the movie is just littered with country music songs and country music guest stars. It's like the Blues Brothers, only with, again, no energy and no entertaining car chases. So this is clearly for country music fans. So did country music fans want this? Is this something country music fans would enjoy? At least with the other two, at least with the other ones, you had girls dancing around in bikinis. Okay, that'll bring in the males, the young men. Okay, there is nothing in here to appeal to anyone except the possibility of liking the country music artists that guest star in it. And if that's the case, you'd get more enjoyment just listening to their record at home. What was this movie? Who is this movie for? Also, in terms of the acting of this film, the acting, as I'm generously going to refer to it, this movie calls into mind one of my all-time favorite Mystery Science Theater quotes. I've used it many times on the various incarnations of Drive Home reviews, from the classic episode Skydivers, wherein they say, did the actors do their own skydiving? No, the skydivers did their own acting, and that is very much the case here. These guys, our title hillbillies are not actors, and it shows. They constantly look lost and confused when the camera is on them. They react to nothing. They do not have the charisma or the acting talent that Elvis had. Proof that success in one career field does not translate into success in another. They wander around just gawking. There are several times I'm pretty sure they forgot their line and flubbed it, but then came back and just continued doing the scene anyway. The director of this film is actually a director I actually like a lot. His name's Gene Yarbrough, and I've talked about him a bit on one of my other Drive Home review shows, Drive Home Reviews meets Abbott and Costello, which will be returning soon, trust me. In in that he directed several of Abbott and Costello's films and directed 52 episodes, I think the entire run of the Abbott and Costello show. And I remember reading about him, and at one point he was very hesitant to keep doing Bud and Lou films because he was worried that, he would just kind of be labeled the Bud and Lou director. And I can understand that, but after working with these folks, I mean, you got to admit, Bud and Lou probably were at least performers. And these guys are not. Now, you have that option of when you have non-actors, you surround them with stronger actors to help boost their performance. Jerry Seinfeld did this with his TV show. He knew he wasn't an actor, so he said, I need someone really good to play off of so that I look better by comparison, hence Jason Alexander. That's why Jason Alexander is pretty much the star of Seinfeld when you really think about it. And Lonnie Lansing, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. It's L-O-I. I'm saying Lonnie, but there's no N in it. So Loy? I don't know. I'm calling her Lonnie. If that's not her name, I apologize. She's the only one of our title characters who actually was an actor, a character actor, a model and an actor. So they gave them an actor to play off of, but I'm sorry, honey. You're not strong enough to lift these two up. She's trying. She's really trying. But you can only do so much. And I'm sorry, sweetheart. You just... It's a tall order. I don't think many people could. It's nothing against you. You did the best you could. She's the most enjoyable part of the movie. Because she's the only one who's acting with any kind of intensity or any kind of urgency. The other two actors are just like, what? Who? Huh? And that brings us to the other actors. This movie actually does have some name pedigree behind it. Much like Ghost in the Invisible Bikini, this one brought in members of the Horror Movie Hall of Fame to round out its cast. Once again, returning from Ghost in the Invisible Bikini, we have Basil Rathbone, we have John Carradine, and we also have, in my opinion, the Tony Stark of the Universal monster movie films, the great and underrated Lon Chaney Jr. And I say that with absolutely no joke. I think Lon Chaney Jr. was a great actor and totally underappreciated for what he could do. So you have three of the greatest horror movie icons in the world in your ridiculous hillbilly film. As I mentioned with Ghost in the Invisible Bikini, when those actors are in it and they are really going, even if it's a stupid movie, they can still bring the goods. That's not what happens here. Age, I think, has just caught up with him. This was Basil Rathbone's second to last movie. He only made one more film after this before passing away. And he and John Carradine's dialogue in this, I don't know how to describe it. The best way I can say is, I remember the first year I was working at the school I'm currently at. And through asinine circumstances, I ended up having to direct our musical that year, a stage production of the insipid Disney film High School Musical. Now, I had never read the script. I'd never seen the movie. I'd listened to about 3 minutes of the soundtrack before taking it out of my CD player, rolling my window down, and tossing it out onto the Glen Highway. So I had no idea. I'm getting ready to direct this show and had no idea what it was about or what any of the dialogue was. The script finally arrives. I get it. I sit down to read it during my planning period. I open the script. I look at the first page. I read the first line of dialogue, of spoken dialogue in this production, and it is, "Yo, doggy, Troy, my hoops boy." At which point, I closed the script and had to get up and go stare at myself in the mirror for a long, long time while I reevaluated the way I make life decisions. And I tell you this story because as I listen to John Carradine and Basil Rathbone give their lines back and forth, that is the feeling I get listening to them. Like they are both, with every line of dialogue, just going, how did we get here? How did this happen? You know, I remember playing Sherlock Holmes and it was successful. How did this? And what's even worse is that, like, with Ghost of the Invisible Bikini, at least it was a fairly high-budget production. It was for a major studio, I think. This is for some no-name studio, which only makes it worse when you look at the finished product, because the film that they're shooting on is that grainy, very cheap color stock that makes everything look like a low-budget porn movie. You know, so the film quality is not helping the film quality. And both of these guys they look so sad. And like they're looking at each other delivering their lines, and it's just this look of, I'm sorry. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Lon Chaney Jr. is trying, I think, but I also think that this is towards the end of his life. He's older. He can't move as well, and you just see it in his face. You know, he's sad. He's very, very sad. So I don't think, I think the age of our actors kind of play into the lack of drive or energy that this film puts forth. Let's talk about, let's get to our end point here, because there are some things to talk about. So the best song of this one, I'm not even going to try, folks. It had so many country songs in it, and they are all just so bland. I can't even pick a best one, even from this. You know, with an Elvis movie, you have Elvis, all right? He's already a singer, so the fact that he's going to break out into song occasionally is par for the course. You know that's what you're getting into. Here, it's not just our main two guys who are country singers, but they bring in guest stars to do numbers like it's the freaking Muppet Show. And because of that, you have to stop the plot, and as such as it is, and bring in these stars out of nowhere to do a song and then find a way to get them off. At one point, a group comes in. I have no idea who they are. They come and go, oh, hey, we heard guitar music coming from this here house. Well, yes, that came from me. I'm an entertainer. Well, hell, we're country music entertainers, too. Well, why don't you sing a song? Okay. And they sing two songs. Something scares them, and they go, oh, we're scared. And they get up and just lightly jog to the door. At another point, Jeepers, fucking Jeepers, Jeepers cannot sleep, and he's watching TV and turns on to, I guess, Hee-Haw, where they are just, you know, several people. Merle Haggard is doing several musical numbers, and then someone else. And again, we stop the movie dead for this. This is almost as bad. The worst part is at the end of this film. So the film concludes, the spies are caught, our hillbillies are on their way to their jamboree. The last 20 minutes of this fucking movie is the jamboree. So it's just different country stars coming up in their ridiculous 60s country music get-ups, outfits that are so gaudy a pro wrestler would tell you to tone them down, and all of them looking about as enthused to be there as a stepdad at a third grade dance recital. Just, it is, and you're watching this going, why did our hillbillies have to get there? They don't perform to the end. They're MCing. You could have gotten anybody to do this. So I'm sorry, I can't keep up with the theme here. I can't pick a song. But let's get to the recycled costume, because this is the whole reason I want to talk about this movie. There were times when I was like, I don't really want to go into this film. There's nothing to talk about. It's horrible. It's not even horrible really in a fun way, but I think there was one thing that made me want to talk about this film. Lonnie Lansing being one, I think she actually tried to do a good job, but, you know, handicapped by what she had. But this film features in it, for our recycled costume, we have the gorilla suit from the Ghost in the Invisible Bikini. Not only that, but we have the exact same actor inside the gorilla suit. The actor inside the gorilla suit is a man named George Barrows. And it's okay if you have not heard of him. Now, before I get into this, we can maybe make the assumption that this could be, since it's the same suit and the same actor, perhaps this is the same gorilla from Ghost in the Invisible Bikini, at which point this would make it part of the Zipperverse. A very, very sad part of the Zipperverse, but part of the Zipperverse nonetheless. However, I digress. The reason I bring this up is because George Barrows, as an actor, has had a fascinating career. Among other things, he has the distinction of serving as a henchman who battled both Batman and Superman, appearing as one of Catwoman's henchmen in the Adam West Batman show, as well as appearing as a gangster on the George Reeves Superman show. So that's a pretty neat feather in his cap. But what is more interesting to me is that George Barrows had a long and successful career of playing gorillas in things. Looking through his IMDb page, he played a gorilla in about 10 different things. And some of them kind of high profile. Let's just give you the rundown here. So he, of course, appeared in this movie. He also appeared as the gorilla in last week's outing, The Ghost in the Invisible Bikini. He appeared as a gorilla in the Incredible Hulk television show. He also was a gorilla in The Lucy Show and The Abbott and Costello Show. He appeared as a gorilla in films such as The Black Zoo, the movie serial Captain Africa, which that's one I've never seen, but I'm kind of both interested and terrified of seeing it. A film called Gorilla at Large, so assuming he was the lead in that one. In one of the very successful Tarzan movies, Tarzan Takes a Mate. And perhaps most important to me, the one I think really deserves the praise, and I mean this sincerely, is that George Barrows was the man inside the suit for last year's This Is Halloween review standout. Yes, he was Roman, the robot monster in Robot Monster. For that reason alone, the man deserves to be known for appearing in that classic. So, it is for this reason that I wanted to talk about this movie, to just shine a light on this amazing career this guy had of playing monkeys. And to also say thank you to George Barrows for his career and his years of work. And I would like to formally dedicate this review, and indeed all of this year's This Is Halloween reviews, to the acting career and memory of George Barrows. Truly, nobody played a monkey better until Ronnie McDowell. So, there you have it. And there you have this year's This Is Halloween reviews. I hope you've enjoyed some of these campy classics. I hope maybe this inspired you to go check some of them out. So, with this, we will tip our hats, say thank you, Mr. Barrows, and wherever you are, drive safe, and we'll see you at the movies.